You will know that you are beginning to talk yourself out of the lane that God has curated for you when you become more practical than you do miraculous. Somebody in here has shrunk their dream and shrunk the vision that God gave them to make it more practical. So I gotta choose. Do I move into the lane of the practical, or do I dare stay in the lane of the miraculous? If you allow yourself to be triggered, then you can go back and tell that season where you felt like the weapon was prospering, that what happened then didn't change what God has for me now. When you give attention to negativity, you get a return on that as well. There are certain things that when I give them attention, they heighten my shame. They heighten my insecurity. And so we have to be willing to do the work to ask ourselves, what did I get in return from that attention? Like, I gave you some attention for this drama. I gave you some attention for this thing that we've gone over and over again. And now for some reason, after I gave you attention, I feel less than. After I gave you attention, I feel more insecure. After I gave you attention, I don't know if I trust God anymore. There are some people that when you give them attention, there are some situations when you give them attention, you get a value, but the value is not necessarily in the place that you wanted. Now your depression has more value. Now your insecurity has more value. Now your trauma has more value. How did it become more valuable? It's because I gave attention to something that fed into something that was already living inside of me. The only time that things really get under my skin is when there's already a seed that has been deposited in my life, and then someone comes along and they water a seed that was already there. And so what I have to learn to do is starve out the people who feed the things that make me more insecure, because I'm moving into a season in my life where I cannot afford to be double-minded. I gotta be stable in order to break this generational curse. I gotta be stable in order to build this business. I gotta be stable in order to walk with integrity. I gotta be stable in order to lead this church. I gotta be stable in order to be in ministry. And sometimes that means I gotta block some things out of my mind, because the only time I feel unstable is after I have engaged with you. Some people are on assignment from the enemy and they don't even realize it. My assignment is not even to thwart you. My assignment is to divide your attention, because if I divide your attention, then you will not have enough momentum to do the thing God has called you to do. The enemy didn't stuff the fruit down her mouth. All he did was divide her attention. I know you're focused on being fruitful and multiplying. I know you're focused on having dominion, but did you ever think about this fruit and now her attention has been divided? I gotta pay attention. I'm paying attention. It costs me something to pay attention. My attention is an investment. And there are moments where you do need to see what's happening, but you also need to have enough wisdom to know when you can't handle it anymore. There are moments where you need to see what God is doing in the life of other people. It blesses you. It encourages you. It edifies you. But then there are moments where you need to stop looking at what God is doing in the lives of other people. Because when you finish looking at what God is doing in the lives of other people, you come back over to your life and you're like, God, I don't even see you moving at all in my life. I see this person got married. I see this person got the finances. I got to pay attention to what's happening in my life. And what we learn when we bring our attention back to what God is doing in our lives is that we serve a God who sees us. Sometimes we have these moments where we make it seem like blessings just fell into our lives. The blessings didn't just fall into our lives. We serve a God who paid attention to what we needed and gave it to us right when we needed it. If I had about 10 seconds and about 10 old school church folks, we could have testimony service in this room. And we could talk about those moments where God showed up in our lives in such a way that there was no denying that you were paying attention to me. You see, God has just blessed some people, but God has done some things in my life that helped me to recognize that you were paying attention to me. You knew exactly what I needed in that grief. You knew exactly what I needed when I was going through that pain. You knew exactly what I I needed. No one but God could have known that I needed that word when it came. No one but God could have known what I needed out of that worship service. But God, you pay attention to me. It gives me a Psalms 3 praise where I start thinking like David thought in Psalms 8. In Psalms 8, David said, how is it that this God who considers the heavens and the works of your fingers, the moons and the stars which you have ordained, God, you set the ocean in motion. You put the sun in the sky. You place the stars over the galaxy. Who am I that you are mindful of me, that you pay attention to what I need? Little old me, God, I barely paid attention to you, but you paid attention to me. You knew I wouldn't have the father, but you gave me the uncle. You knew I wouldn't have the family, but you gave me the teacher. God, you didn't just leave me with nothing to pull from. You paid attention to what I needed. He paid attention to me. He paid attention to what I needed. He paid attention to the areas where I had brokenness. He's already gone ahead of you. That means that I'm paying attention before you even step into the room, that you'll have the right people when you get into the room. He's paying attention right now in this moment when you feel lost and forsaken and confused. God says, I'm paying attention. When we talk about him restoring what the locusts have eaten, we're talking about a God who paid attention to everything you lost along the way. I'm paying attention to everyone who walked away. I'm paying attention to everyone who betrayed you, because when the time is right, when you step into restoration, you're going to see that I didn't leave you. When you step into restoration, you're going to see that I understood what you needed along the way. I know your life feels random. I know it feels like you're scattered all over the place, but God says, I paid attention to everywhere your foot treaded. I paid attention to everything they said. I paid attention to every dream. I paid attention to every hope. I paid attention to every desire. I paid attention to you. Oh, God, who am I that you would be mindful of me? God knows how to stay in his lane and your lane too. That's what that verse shows me in Psalms 8. That I know how to stay in my lane. I can still run the galaxy. I can still sit high and lift it up. But I also know how to get down into what bothers you. That's the whole thing with me being omnipresent. I know how to be everywhere all at the same time. I can be in your lane and my lane. I can be in her lane and your lane. Just because I'm doing it in her life, it doesn't mean that I'm not doing it in your life too. I know how to be in everybody's lane at the same time. And I'm paying attention to what you need. And I'm paying attention to what hurts you. And I'm paying attention to what's still dormant inside of you. We serve a God who pays attention. We pay attention. God pays attention because he recognizes that I'm trying to keep you in your lane. And sometimes in order to keep you in your lane, he does have to go ahead of us and make our crooked path straight. In order to keep us in our lane, he does have to do some things that help us to recognize that only God could do this. But what I love the most about God is even when we swerve out of our lane, he shows up there too. David said again in Psalm, if I make my bed in hell, you'll be there. Which means that he's not just God when you're doing everything right. And he's not just showing up just because you showed up in all of your righteousness and holiness. But when we look back over our lives, I bet a few of us see some times where I swerved out of my lane, but God was still there in the midst of it all. That God said, I know you don't have no business being over here at this hour of the night. I know you don't have no business talking this person at all. That's why I'm going to flicker the lights to let you know that I'm over in this lane too. I wish I had some people in here who tried to live wrong. Like I gave it my best shot. Like I was the best at doing bad, but God wouldn't let me get out of my lane. God kept calling me. God, I wanted to turn this sermon off. I didn't want your presence to reach me. I swerved out of your lane because I've got too much shame and I got too much guilt. But for some reason, God came and chased me down. Goodness and mercy kept following me, so much so that I had to turn around and finally say, God, what is it that that you want from me. You know I'm not good enough. You know I'm not smart enough. You know all of the things I've done in my past, but every time I swerve out of my lane, you keep pulling me back to where I'm supposed to be. You keep calling my name in spite of what I've gone through. What kind of God do we serve? Who won't even allow us to get out of line and treat us the way we treat people when they get out of line. I'll leave the 99 to come get the one because I'm so committed to who you can be that I don't care who you used to be. I'm so committed to what's in you that I can't give up on what came out of you. I'm so committed to what I placed inside of you that I won't just let you get tossed up in any old environment, in any old circumstances. He's coming to get somebody. He's coming to get us. And what we learn in this text, the reason why I believe God highlighted this for me, is that we see in the children of Israel the reality of what happens when we serve a God who doesn't mind swerving in and out of these lanes with us. I thought that God was trying to keep us in the lane because that's just where we're supposed to be. What I know now is that the reason why God is so committed to us staying in our lane is because He created this lane for us. And in the context of this lane, there are promises that only manifest when you stay in your lane. When you stay in your lane, there is covering. There are some people in this room who, you are right, they should not be on the path that they are on. I should not be looking at generational wealth. I should not be looking at generational wholeness. But because some kind of way I stayed in my lane, now the promise that God spoke over my family is a reality. It's going to be the year where the deals that you made with the enemy, the deals that you made with your shame, the deals that you made with your insecurity are broken because you stay in your lane. And because you stay in your lane, you make some commitments to God. God, I don't know why you placed me here. God, I don't know what you're seeing me, but I'm going to stay in my lane. The old folks will say, I think I'm going to run on and see what the end's going to be. I'm going to stay in this lane because there are some promises connected to this lane. I'm going to stay in this lane because there are some weapons that I see forming, and everything in me wants to step out of my lane, to move out of Dodge, to get out of Target, but I'm going to stay in my lane and trust that the promises of the Lord are yes and amen. I see the weapons forming, but I see myself running. I see the weapons coming for me, but I also see goodness and mercy following me. You don't think I see you, baby. But what I see more than that is the path that God has for me. I think I'm going to run on and see what the end's going to be. I think I'm going to run on and see how all things work together for the good of those who stay in that lane. I think I'm going to run on. Though He slay me, yet shall I trust in Him. I'm going to stay in my lane. Though the weapons are formed, I'm going to stay in my lane. Though they talk about me, I'm going to stay in my lane. Baby, this is my lane. He created this lane for me. Can't nobody do my lane the way I do my lane. I can't give up on my lane, because if I give up on my lane, a generation may not be saved. So I'm going to stand flat-footed in the lane God gave me. The enemy's trying to run somebody out of position. The enemy's trying to scare you out of position. I hear God saying, you're wondering what the strategy is. The strategy is stay focused on the lane. The strategy is stay focused on the call. The strategy is stay focused on the mission. That's my strategy. I don't have a 10-point business plan. I don't have pages and pages of a PowerPoint. All I got is me staying in my lane. All I got is what God told me. When God flipped the script, I'll flip the script. But if we still doing this, God, I'm still the one for the job. If we still going at it. I got you when you in your lane. I can rescue you when you swerve. But if you want all of heaven's resources to back you up, I can't back up no foolishness. You got to get back in your lane. If you want all of heaven's you want demons to tremble, you got to get back in your lane. You want hell to get nervous, you got to get back in your lane. I know you've been scared. I know you've been depressed. We got to have a multi-lane highway in this joint. I need about 6 or 7 of you. Can't be in your lane. I got to be in my lane. I can't do what you do. I got to do what God called me to do. And I'm going to be honest with you. Doing what called me to do is scary. It's not easy. People don't swerve out of the lane because the lane was easy to navigate. Ooh. It's scary in that lane. I see you, mama. Somebody's been waiting to feel like, when am I gonna feel the strength of the new year? When am I gonna feel the momentum? I'm used to feeling a certain thing and it just hasn't turned the corner yet. God said it's supposed to feel like that. Because your lane is getting narrow. Oh, God. I'm gonna be honest, this text got on my nerves. I'm just preaching what God gave me. Because in Numbers 14, we see the lane, it's getting narrow. The cost of swerving at this point is detrimental. Oof. Right before the promise, they're within striking distance of the promise. And now the people who I started with don't even believe that we can access it. This lane is getting narrow. God, how could this lane? Jesus, when he was headed to the cross, the lane got narrow. Right when he was in striking distance of salvation, striking distance of glory, the lane got narrow. David, when he was killing, they said David's killed his tens of thousands and Saul killed his thousands, but when it was time for him to actually become king, the lane got narrow. Oh. It's tight, but it's right, I had to say it. Lane is getting narrow for them. And Caleb and Joshua and Moses and Aaron are one of the few who believe that they can navigate narrow lanes. Oh, God. The other children of Israel, they want to go back where the wider lanes are. Even if the wider lanes are in the wilderness. Quite literally, they say, let's get another leader and go back to Egypt. Because this lane is too narrow. There's not enough room in this lane for your fears, for your pride, for your ego. This lane then got too tight for your associates and your comfort zone. This lane has gotten too tight. This righteous lane has gotten too tight. This integrity lane has gotten too tight. I'm starting to lose people, and it would be okay if it was just momentary, but the lane is getting narrow and I still got work to do. And God highlighted to me when I was reading this word that many of us are more like those who want to go back than those who want to stay. How do I know this? Because what the children of Israel say in this moment, those who want to go back, what they're saying is really quite practical. They're saying that the land is already inhabited. And those who are inhabiting the land are mightier than us. They are more powerful than us. You will know that you are beginning to talk yourself out of the lane that God has curated for you when you become more practical than you do miraculous. You see, this lane didn't start in the practical. It started in the spirit. When he brought them out of Egypt, it was a miracle. The plagues he brought, God front-loaded them with miracles so that you would understand that this is starting as a miracle. There is nothing practical about a baby being placed in a basket, being drawn out by exactly the right family, fleeing, then coming back because of a burning bush. This all started in miracles. And if God starts it miraculously, you don't get to make it practical. There's some people in this room. The fact that you are even up against this type of enemy is a miracle, because of where you came from and what you've had to work with. You shouldn't even be facing off with the type of giants that you're facing off with. You shouldn't even be talking about the type of generational blessings that you're talking about. This is a miracle that you even think the way you think, that you even have the desires that you have. This started in the spirit. This didn't start with something you started on Instagram. This didn't start with something someone else told you. Somebody said something that confirmed what God had already placed on the inside of you. It started in the spirit. I can't make the practical become miraculous. So I gotta choose. Do I move into the lane of the practical, or do I dare stay in the lane of the miraculous? Do I stay in the lane that's going to require me to call on God? Do I stay in the lane that is going to require me to depend on God? Do I stay in the lane that's going to mean the numbers are getting smaller, but my spirit is getting greater? God, it's a hard decision because there is a safety in the practical. It makes sense on paper. I don't have to wonder how God is going to do it. I don't have to wonder if it's going to come through when I do it in the practical. And I don't know who you are, but somebody in here has shrunk their dream and shrunk the vision that God gave them to make it more practical than miraculous, because it got so hard that you said, I don't think the lane can be this narrow and me survive, so I'll just make it practical. Maybe I don't want the thing God wants for me. Maybe I want what I can do in my own strength. You need to know when the lane starts getting narrow and things start getting tight. You need to understand who really has what it takes, because when you are engaging with the battle, the actual battle is not even invading the land. The actual battle is dispossessing who's in the land who shouldn't be there. And you need people who see things the way that God sees them. You need people who understand that you're looking at it the way that man looks at it, but I'm looking at it the way that God looks at it. And yes, they are big, and yes, I am outnumbered, but the glory is on my side. And because I need people who see glory. I know you see numbers, but do you see glory? I know you understand analytics, but do you see glory? I know you understand finance, but do you see glory? I know you understand data, but do you see glory? You've calculated everything, but you missed out on the glory, because when the glory calls me, the numbers may look confusing. When glory calls me, the data may not make sense. When glory calls me, it'll upset the plans of the enemy. When glory calls me, he'll take the foolish things of the world. And now you sit somewhere looking confused because you didn't take into account the glory, the glory, the glory, the glory. I don't know what your promise is, but I hear God saying you need glory seekers. I need people on my squad who are seeking God's glory. I need people on my squad who know how to get a prayer through. I need somebody on my row who understands that this is not a regular fight. This is a glory fight. You can't look at me and size me up, because you can't see that greater is he that is within me. There's glory within me. The Spirit of the living God dwells on the inside of me. You don't think I look big enough, but you can't see. a trigger actuates the function of my past experience into my present. It actuates the function of that experience. The fear connected to it is now activated because I have been triggered. Whatever you experience, whatever function it had in your life, when you're triggered, it actuates that function. That's why you're defensive and nobody really said anything that bad to you. It's just that it actuated the function of that. That's why you start talking crazy. That's why you shut down. That's why you get angry before you can even control yourself, because the moment I'm triggered, it actuates the function of what happened to me. And so most of us, depending on where you are in your wellness journey, have two different angles at how we handle our triggers. Some of us choose to avoid them. I don't listen to that music, it triggers me. Can't talk to that person, it triggers me. I can't have that conversation. I can't go back home. I can't read that book. It triggers me. It reminds me of a season of my life where I wasn't at my best, where I was a victim, where I was hurt, where I was wounded. It actuates that function, and so I stay away from it. The only problem with this is that often when we avoid our triggers, we also avoid the healing connected to those moments. And so as uncomfortable as it is to stay in the resistance, to stay in the tension of being triggered, there is a beauty in doing that second option, and that is confronting your triggers. When we confront our triggers, we say to ourselves, I am not going back to that experience so that I can experience it again. I'm going back to that experience so that I can give it language, so that I can give it expression, so I can say now what I wasn't able to say then. I'm afraid, I'm hurt, I'm wounded, and so I could avoid the trigger, or I could dare to turn around and confront the trigger so that the trigger no longer dictates who I am anymore. It no longer dictates what's possible for me. It no longer dictates who I am in relationship with, or whether or not I have boundaries, because I am learning to confront my triggers. When you confront your triggers, you have the opportunity to not only just give it language, but you have the ability to say to that version of yourself what you weren't able to say then. Sometimes God allows us to be triggered, not because he wants to remind us of what we went through, but because you have a testimony now that you did not have then. And if you wouldn't mind being triggered, then you could go back to then and say, I got something to tell you about now that's going to make then easier to deal with. I wish I could say that the way I feel it in my spirit, but I just feel like somebody has something now that they needed back then, and you think because you have it now that you can't get it then. But I hear God saying, if you allow yourself to be triggered, then you can go back and tell that season where you felt like the weapon was prospering that in fact it did not prosper. You can go back and tell that shame, I know you thought I would never make it to the other side, but I messed around and found out I actually am fearfully and wonderfully made. I know you didn't think that I would ever recover from that abuse. I know you thought that I would always be damaged to good, but while I am triggered, I want to go ahead and let you know that I actually did find wholeness. I want to let you know that I actually did experience the presence of God. I actually want to go ahead and let you know that I built the family. I want to go ahead and let you know that I broke the generational curse. I want to go ahead and let you know that what happened then didn't change what God has for me now. Can I go deeper? Okay, I gotta take my shoes off because I feel like we're gonna get a little ugly today and I don't have time to be cute. When we moved back to Dallas in August, I got triggered. Oof. I love y'all, but I didn't like it. Something about moving away and becoming someone different that made me feel like if I came back here, maybe I was going backwards. And I'd come into church and I'd feel anxiety in my chest, and I'd feel fear in my chest, and I feel like people were staring at me and people were judging me. And I realized that what I was experiencing in this moment was not really true to what I was experiencing in this moment. I was being triggered from when I was 13 years old and pregnant. Ooh. But I know something about now that I didn't know then. What I know now that I didn't know then is that this same anointing was inside of me when I was pregnant with my son. I just didn't know that when I was pregnant with him, I was also pregnant with this. And so when I started getting triggered, I said, I'm going to stay in the tension of being triggered in this moment, because I know I'm not a 13-year-old pregnant girl anymore. And there is no way that God could transform my life and then bring me back to this moment to take me backwards. So God, if you got me standing in the place of the pain, then maybe I got something to inform the pain. Somebody's got some information for your past. Somebody's got a revelation about who you were. God says, not every trigger is meant to destroy you. Some triggers are meant to deliver you. Some triggers are meant to help you go back and get the pieces of yourself that you thought you would never get back again. God says some of these triggers are meant to help you heal. Oh God, I feel you. Moses, trying to stay on subject. Oh, Moses is evidence that God will send you back. He spends 40 years in Egypt, but he's got to leave Egypt because he keeps getting triggered in Egypt. Because I'm not quite Hebrew, I'm not quite Egyptian, and when I see the Hebrews, I get upset with the Egyptians, but the Hebrews won't accept me. He's torn in between these different identities, and so instead of staying there in the tension of the triggers, he leaves. And that's okay too. Because there are some moments where in order to truly heal, you do need to avoid the triggers that keep pulling you back. Sometimes you do need to change your playlist. Sometimes you do need to change the way you interact with others, especially when you're in a season where you're trying to figure out, who am I really? But after he's been in Midian for 40 years, the Lord appears to him. And the Lord appears to Moses with one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to send him back to the place where he was triggered. But this time, when he goes back, he's not going back the same. He's going back with an encounter that empowers him to be who God has called him to be. That's real good to me. Some of us want to go back to the place where we experience pain without an encounter. And that's why we get hurt and wounded again, because we haven't been empowered to really deliver ourselves or others. And so we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But you can have an encounter with God that empowers you in such a way that when you go back, you don't have to worry about actually going back, because I'm not here to stay, I'm here to deliver. I'm not here to go back to who I used to be. I'm here to see if anybody wants to grow with me. I'm here to see if anybody wants to evolve with me. I'm here to see if anybody else wants to break out of this prison. I'm here to see if anyone else wants to be broken out of this oppression. When Moses goes back, he has to know within himself that I'm not the same person who left. And because I'm not the same person who left, when I go back, I got something to deliver that I could have never delivered had I stayed. I could have never, I don't know who that is for, but But I hear like God is saying that there are some people who had to leave. But just because you had to leave, it doesn't mean that you have to stay gone. That sometimes God sends you back to a place after you have had an encounter that can stretch the capacity for what's possible for the people you left behind. I know we live in a culture, in society, where we think we have to leave everyone behind, but I'm here to let you know that sometimes you only leave them behind for a moment. And when you go, oh God, I feel like preaching in this place. When you go back to where you left, the people you left are not the same people you left anymore. You think they're stuck in their old ways, but baby, just like you changed, they changed. They're ready for something different. They're hungry for something beyond where they have been restricted. They want to know that there is a promised land somewhere out of there. I want to talk to somebody with survivor's guilt, because you are the one who got away. You are the one who changed everything. And I hear God saying you're the lone survivor for now, but you're only the lone survivor until I turn you into the deliverer. When I turn you into the deliverer, you will not be the only survivor any longer, because I'm going to send you back to unlock what's on the inside of them. I'm going to send you back to make them hungry for what happened to you. I'm going to send you back with an encounter and a revelation that shows them there's something better than this. There's a different way of being. There's a different way of proceeding. There's a different way of building a marriage. There's a different way of making money. There's a different way of building ministry. There's a different way of loving your wife. There's a different way of loving your husband. I don't know what you escaped from, but I hear God saying that you got to leave the door open. And sometimes you're going to be the Harriet Tubman of your family, the Harriet Tubman of your community, the Harriet Tubman of your generation, the Harriet Tubman of your school. I gotta send you back. I got the word. I've got the vision. I've even got the supporting cast necessary for me to do what God has called me to do. But I'm still confused, because I don't know how or why God would use me. But I'm gonna go anyway. Can't get stuck in confusion when you have a command. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but if you're really going to be effective, you can't wait until you're clear on why it's you and how it's you and how long it's going to be you. Because if you're waiting for clarity, you may miss the anointing connected to the command. Some of us are moving confused. You think we look good. You think we have it all together. I'm telling you that some of us are just saying yes confused. Some of us are just saying yes with a shoulder shrug. Some of us don't know really how we made it over. We just know that we decided to keep on moving. Our legs got tired. They left us too. They betrayed us too. We didn't know where the resources were coming from either, but for some reason we just kept on moving because we knew we couldn't go back, and we knew when God said move, we had to move. And so we were moving confused, and the more we moved, the more he started clearing it up. Oh, so that's how you're going to do it. Oh, so that's who you're going to use. I'm moving, and when I'm moving, he's clearing my eyesight. When I'm moving, he's making my crooked path straight. When I'm moving, he's ordering my steps. Just when I don't know where it's going to land, he says right there, step right there, preach right there, walk right there. I'm going to tell you as you go. When you move, I'll give you the next step. When you obey, I'll give you the next step. What am I going to do with this ride? Just hang on to it. You'll see it. What am I going to do with this pain? Just hang on to it. Just wait. I'm going to use it. What are you going to do with this gift? Just hang on to it. I'm going to use it when I need it. I'm going to use it when the sea is ready. I'm going to use it. So, Moses shows us that confusion is not the end. Confusion only has as much power as you give it. when it's in comparison to the command, when it's in comparison to the call, when it's in comparison to what God has ordained for your life, when it is comparison to what God says only you can do in the earth, it doesn't mean that there will not be any confusion. It just means that confusion doesn't have to be the end. I don't know who you are in this room, but you're allowing confusion to be the end. And I hear God saying, if you would just move, I'll help you figure it out. Don't be afraid if it's the right move or the wrong move, or what if I get set back. God says, I know how to restore the years that the locusts have eaten. If you would just make a move, if you would just make a move, if you would just get out of your way of being, if you would just get out of your comfort zone, if you would just get out of protecting yourself and trust that I'm going to protect you, that I'll never leave you nor forsake you, if you would just... Oh. Oh, God. So, y'all killing me coming to this altar. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Somebody's coming back. Oh, God. Y'all killing me. Y'all killing me. Y'all killing me. Y'all killing me making a move. So, I chose this text. Because my disciples are stuck in confusion. My disciples who were walking with Jesus, who saw the miracles, who understood the power, are now stuck in a place of confusion. Because how could the man I was following go through this level of trauma, this level of shame, this level of vulnerability? I've seen him flip over tables. I've seen him heal the sick. It doesn't make sense how he would just get on this cross and die, like die for real, like he's in the tomb and now he's not in the tomb. It doesn't make sense anymore. So when Jesus is resurrected, he doesn't just go on a victory stroll. He makes it a point to go back to his disciples, because his disciples don't look like what he left. You're not walking in the same level of faith. You're not walking with the same level of belief. You're confused, and I even told you this was going to happen, but you still are confused. I told you that I was going to get on the cross, that the Son of Man would be crucified, but that he would come back 3 days later. It's almost as if you forgot what I told you, that I told you I was going to take care of that child, that I told you that I was going to bring the resources. You're acting like you forgot. You acted like you forgot. So Jesus starts walking with the disciples. He starts walking at their pace. He brings the conversation down to their level, because God knows how to speak the language of where you are. Church people talk the language of where you should be. Church people talk the language, how could you give up after all that? We serve a Jesus who knows how to meet you at your level. I know how to talk to you from that place of shame. I know how to talk to you from that place of fear. You can't hear God's voice because you keep hearing your daddy's voice. You can't hear God's voice because you keep hearing your mama's voice. You can't hear God's voice because you keep hearing the rumors. But up underneath all of that, there is a still small voice that says, I'm still with you. There's a still small voice that says you're fearfully and wonderfully made. There's a still small voice that says, what if they hire you? What if they fire you? Man shall not live by bread alone, but out of every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. What I learned is Jesus finds the disciples when they're triggered and confused and uncertain and afraid. But he also has another trigger that can help get them back to the space of faith. So he's walking where they're walking. That's why people talk about, well, Jesus sat with sinners and Jesus did this and Jesus did that. Yeah, but Jesus had a mission while he was doing it. Jesus had a purpose while he was doing it. I can talk your level because I know how to bring you up. Some of us can't talk on that level because we'll get brought back down to that level. But when Jesus talks on that level, he is not concerned with whether or not they will affect his divinity. He is God Almighty. He understands that when I touch you, the only thing that can happen is deliverance. When I sit with you, I don't become any more dirty because I am so holy that when I sit with you, you become worried about how did he become so holy. You get curious about who he is. So, Jesus says to the disciples, this is my version. Yeah, this is my version. He says, I know you're confused. I know you're concerned. I know you don't know how it's going to work out. But he takes them back to history. And he says, oh, you slow of heart to believe. Oh, foolish one. Do you not remember from Moses up until the prophets that I always covered you? Do you not remember from Moses all the way up through the prophets down to myself that you used to be hungry, not for information, not for a man, not for a job, but you were hungry for glory. And if you would ever get back to the space where you were hungry for glory, you wouldn't be hungry for information. You would seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things would be added unto you. You want information. God says the information is behind the glory. The information is behind the worship. The information is behind the sacrifice. The information is behind the surrender. The information is behind the